Hello, and welcome to this informational webinar. By attending this webinar, you will learn as a nursing home how to comply with the New York State regulations and keep patients and staff safe from Legionnaire's disease. Let's begin with some information about Legionella bacteria and Legionnaire's disease. By following recommended maintenance procedures in your drinking water system and sampling for Legionella bacteria to validate effectiveness, you can minimize likelihood of disease. Legionella bacteria enter buildings in small numbers with a potable water supply. Once inside, many factors can cause the bacteria to amplify. Legionella bacteria can survive in a wide range of temperatures, even in ice, but prefer temperatures around 90 to 110 degrees where they can multiply rapidly. This makes a hot water system ideal for Legionella bacteria, but even a cold water system is vulnerable. Stagnant and low flow conditions contribute to growth. For example, seldom used station showers may contain high levels of bacteria. Biofilm or sediment in the piping are considered food and protective shelter for Legionella bacteria. In these cases, using a disinfectant to remove existing biofilm may help eradicate the waterborne pathogen. People become infected with Legionnaire's disease when they breathe or aspirate contaminated mist or water. Some people are especially susceptible to becoming sick after Legionella bacteria exposure, including people over 50 years old, people with a compromised immune system, current and former smokers, and people with respiratory illnesses. Because of these facts, New York State Department of Health adopted regulations in July of 2016 that apply to all general hospitals and residential healthcare facilities in New York State. These regulations outline mandatory Legionella bacteria testing in the drinking water and associated actions to take based on the results. These regulations require all residential healthcare facilities to implement a Legionella sampling and management plan and begin routine sampling for Legionella bacteria in the drinking water supply. Routine Legionella bacteria sampling must be done every 90 days for 1 year and at least once per year afterwards, depending on results. The laboratory you choose must be ELAB certified in New York State. For residential facilities with fewer than 500 beds, the minimum number of samples that must be taken is 10 samples. And since hot water is more likely to have higher levels of Legionella bacteria, samples should be first draw hot water samples from faucets and showers. We recommend also sampling other areas which have been shown to amplify Legionella bacteria, including hot water storage tanks, ice machines, and 1 or 2 cold water outlets. Once results are received, if fewer than 30% are positive for any level of Legionella, you can continue routine maintenance and sampling. No immediate action is needed. If results are greater than or equal to 30% positivity for any level of Legionella, the health department must be notified, control measures must be applied, and the positive locations must be resampled in 1 to 4 weeks. There are a number of control measures that may be taken in this situation, and I'll go over them on the next slide. If greater than or equal to 30% of the samples taken are positive for Legionella multiple times in a row, long-term control measures must be taken, which typically means installing secondary treatment. Although less than 30% positivity is considered low risk for Legionnaire's disease outbreak, this does not mean there is no risk, especially if there is an elevated CFU count. There are 3 key components needed for your Legionella bacteria sampling and management plan to meet these regulations. The first component is the sampling locations and schedule. You want your sites to be representative of the entire building and cover your most vulnerable areas. In the case of nursing homes, patient faucets and showers will be where most people susceptible would be exposed to contaminated water. The second key component is what response you plan to take if your results come back greater than or equal to 30% positive for Legionella bacteria. Typical options include heat sterilization for a temporary response. This is raising temperatures to around 160 degrees Fahrenheit and flushing outlets. Another temporary option is hyperhalogenation, feeding free chlorine and flushing the outlets. Long-term solutions include adding secondary chemical treatment. Finally, your Legionella sampling and management plan is required to list who will be notified of the Legionella bacteria results. This step prevents any confusion when results come in, especially if there are any positive results. Having a plan in place promotes success. Going back to the secondary treatment options, there are a few options for Legionella bacteria control. The one that we at Barclay have seen work best is the monochloramine treatment approach. With monochloramine feed, Legionella levels are typically non-detect throughout the system, and there is less corrosion than with many other treatment approaches. For your convenience, here are the links to the New York State regulations and documents. Please reach out to Barclay with any questions you might have. We are happy to help meet your safety goals. Thank you for your time.